Welcome back to The Daily Edge, where we ask entrepreneurs, executives, athletes, and high performers how they find their edge. Today's guest is Kevin Jablon, CEO of Spartan Surfaces. He shares his tips on going from sales rep to $100 million CEO and taking a private company through a public purchase. As always, I'm your host, Marc Nudelberg.
Let's find our edge.
Welcome to The Daily Edge. Kevin, thanks for being with us today. You and I met a little while ago, right? We built a relationship. We started working together. You're the CEO of Spartan Surfaces, and you built this thing from scratch. Take us back to the very beginning and how you got to this point.
Well, so I grew up pretty much in the flooring industry. My first job out of college, just randomly. And
York College, give a shout out.
York College of Pennsylvania. The York College Spartans. The name of my company is the Spartan Surfaces. I actually met my wife there. A lot of our employees, a few of my dearest friends, lived on my floor freshman year of college that work at Spartan. So yes, Spartan means a lot to me. Spartan Surfaces means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I got in the flooring business when I was 22. I didn't start Spartan until I was 34. Those 12 years were pivotal. I worked for local distribution. I worked for a Japanese flooring company. I worked for a large domestic rubber flooring company, doing all aspects of the business, but mainly focused in sales. Not even sales leadership, sales. I was everything, pretty much what I hunted, I killed, I ate, and that's how I grew up in the business. But I was always a sponge of really successful people. And for me, I knew quickly that the idea of working my way up a corporate ladder really wasn't exciting to me. I always focused on the owner as opposed to the president. The owner of the company was really like, how did he do that? How did she do that? That was always sort of what got me going, and I always paid attention at all levels. No matter how big the business was, I was always gravitated towards the owner, and I asked a million questions.
So at 22, not necessarily the entrepreneurial vision, but as you started to grow through your career, you were always drawn to the owners and curious about them, which then kind of lit that entrepreneurial fire for you?
I always had the entrepreneurial fire as like an 8-year-old.
Okay.
My parents would tell you, from selling baseball cards at the flea market to having the best paper route in the neighborhood, to having an incredible lemonade stand, to selling soft pretzels on the corner in Philadelphia with a lot of my friends. So I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. When I got into the flooring industry at 22 was probably one of the toughest times of my life. I just graduated college, where I met my best friends and my soon-to-be wife. We're still married 27 years later.
Congrats.
We've been together since we're 21. I'm 53. And I look 53. She looks 33
That
still.
also means she's a saint.
Well, she had to really, none of this happens without her support. She was an MBA from Johns Hopkins. That decided to stay home and put that same energy into raising our family. And she believed in my ambition. I don't even know as much about a vision because I really didn't even have one. But she believed in my ambition.
Yeah, that's like, I love that you said that. Like, I didn't really have the vision. Like, there wasn't this crystal clear.
Not at all.
You knew what you were working towards. That kind of formed. How do you, throughout your career, because you hear people all the time, without a vision, you can't go anywhere, or you're all over the place. How do you kind of combat that and say, no, I didn't have the exact vision, but I had something that drove me. How do you define that something that drove you?
It was relationships and my network. I tried to never burn a bridge. Maybe a few got burned my entire career, and I can promise you I don't mind the ones that got burnt. But I realized early on I was only gonna be as good as my network, and I wanted people rooting for me. So early on, I started in the industry at 22, super entry level, making $27,000 a year, grinding it out. And as I worked my way up and started to have some success, I tried to befriend everybody. And I've never been scared to ask a lot of questions. I ask a shitload of questions. And all of a sudden, I'm having some success in sales and in business, because it wasn't just sales. I ran my territories for these companies. So sales was just one aspect of it, the main aspect. But all of a sudden, I'm like 30, 31. I'm like, I think I can do this. And there was this burning desire that wasn't necessarily financially driven because I was doing really well.
Yeah.
The desire was I was a creative.
Yeah.
I wanted to have control over not just of my future, but over other people's future. I felt like I could be a really good leader, even though I really never was a leader at this point in my career.
Sure. You ran your territories,
yeah, but I felt like I could really be a leader and lead a team with a creative vision. Because I had a vision at this point of what the company would look like.
Yeah.
It exceeded, I never imagined that we would end up, becoming $100 million company. And, privately held by myself and then selling it to a public company. And that to say that was my vision would be a lie.
I love that because Kurt Signetti says the same thing about what he did at Indiana. He's like, if you asked me when I was at IUP, like I didn't have the vision of going to Indiana and going 16-0 for the first time. And like none of that was a vision.
No.
He's like, I had a vision of what I wanted to do and the impact I wanted to have and some of that burning desire, but it wasn't crystal clear like that. So take me through a little bit, you starting Spartan, because I loved what you said about like, I was always curious about the owner and my vision was kind of this thing that I'd pieced together. What were those components that made you go, I want to build this because it's different or it's creative, or what was that vision? How did you get those pieces?
So Spartan Surfaces is a flooring distribution business. We brand our own products today. We sell in all 50 states. Our business development reps pretty much call on architects, designers, developers, end users, generating flooring specifications with exclusive products that we sell.
Was that the original vision of the company? Okay.
No,
right.
Because I didn't have any money, so I couldn't fill a product with so I couldn't fill a warehouse with products. The original vision was we were going to be a rep group, so we were going to get what I would say is B lines, because no A lines would give me their business.
Sure.
So I always compare it to the beverage business, to the beer business.
Okay.
So Coors, Miller, and Budweiser weren't looking to give us the line.
Yep.
Maybe in a certain market, Samuel Adams would give us the line.
Okay. That craft beer,
Right.
that tastier beer.
Maybe High Noon, before it was High Noon,
Sure.
would give us the line.
Sure.
And then we wouldn't have it nationally.
Yeah.
We had it in DC and Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And that's where we started the business.
Okay.
And so the model was set up, and as an agent, we didn't hold any paper. We'd have exclusive rights to the territory. We'd represent their products in the marketplace. But when it was time for for the material to be bought, they'd buy it directly from the manufacturer, pay us a commission.
Yep.
I realized after about 3 years that if you don't control the money, you don't control anything. And I also realized that with the manufacturer, you could be a victim of your own success. If you didn't sell enough, there's a chance you can get dropped,
you get dropped.
and get replaced by a vertically integrated
Yep.
sales staff. If you sold too much, they looked at the amount of money you made, and you could get dropped, and you could get dropped as well. So I realized that the only way this was going to scale was to control the money and to buy and resell. And that shift happened in around 2010.
Okay.
After the business started in 2007.
Okay.
And then I saw that this model was very much based off of. And there's nothing that we sell that's in essence very much different than any of our competitors.
Right.
Flooring, hard surface flooring has all been commoditized over the years. Everybody makes a good product.
Yeah.
The relationship with the rep is what drives it. And I realized that level of trust, that level of confidence, that level of professionalism, and that experience, making the experience working with us better than working with the big boys.
Okay.
Because we were the small guys.
Yep.
We were the underdogs.
Okay.
So we always wanted to create an experience for a designer, for a contractor, for an architect. How do we make that experience with us whatever defines better, better for that person than it would be working with the bigger companies we competed against?
So that was the nest egg that then went boom.
We weren't in the flooring business, we're in the relationship business. And the flooring was just a widget.
And that was just the thing that you delivered after. So how did you, obviously it was your drive, your relationships, your ability to develop this market dominance that grew the company the way that it did. How did you then go from, okay, we were a rep group to now we're in the flooring business, like we manufacture, what was that growth like from being, okay, we got to change. we create the change to getting purchased by Floor Decor? What was that?
So let me rewind it. When you used the word like Kevin, you're like, it was you.
Yeah.
None of this was me. At the time, I was always an observer of talent. So I'm in DC and Philadelphia, and that's where we're building our business.
Okay.
I knew Joe Blodgett was going to be a beast in the business. I knew Phil Carey, Tim Dormer, Kevin Dunn, Danny Boyle, Chuck Scalacci, Anthony Farina. I could go down the list of the people externally, the reps.
Yep.
And by the way, like I always lived with the adage that sales cures all. So where I was weak was I didn't spend the time on the inside of the business that I probably should have at the time. Everything for me was, it doesn't really matter how messy it is when you open up the curtain. At the end of the day, the P&L is gonna be good because we're selling a ton of shit.
Yep.
So I really focused on the reps in the market.
Yep.
And I feel like I've surrounded myself with reps that were better than me. And
Did you, sorry to interrupt, but did you cherry pick them from other places?
all of the above.
Okay.
And the one thing was, I also realized after a couple, because I was a rep.
Yeah.
When I started Spartan, I was the rep in DC.
Yeah.
And I had a rep in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I realized after about 3 years, I'm better at running the business than I am at being a rep. And that was a big difference. I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
And I felt like I wasn't being a great rep. And I wasn't doing a great job running the business.
Right.
And I felt like if I hired other people to take my accounts, and Joe Blodgett was the first person, who's now our president of Spartan Surfaces, he was the first person in my background, which was healthcare and education accounts, that I felt would be comfortable handing my accounts over to him. He took my accounts to a level I never took them to.
Wow.
And I think I was much better at running the business.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a hard question because you've talked about a lot of people that I know are still a part of the business. You talked about there are very few relationships that have ever been burned in your career. How do you manage loyalty? As you're scaling and you're growing, through that time, was there ever somebody that was part of that growth that was no longer a fit that you struggled with being loyal to and holding on to and letting go of?
To a fault.
To a fault.
To a fault. So it's easy for me now because I don't own the business today. So I have an obligation to do what's best for Spartan, powered by Floor Decor. We're a public company, and it actually becomes much easier for me because the emotion is removed.
Yeah.
I have an obligation to do what is best for Spartan Surfaces. When I owned it, sometimes I made decisions that were best to avoid conflict, best for my personal life outside of the business, even if it hurt Spartan.
Yeah.
And I think I took many lumps that way because I think I looked at it like I was being loyal, but in essence, I wasn't doing either of us a favor because you know when you're not doing a good job and you know when this isn't the right fit, but we were both too hesitant to rip off the Band-Aid. And I think people that aren't here any longer, they're doing better in their career, in their life. It just wasn't the right fit. Or it might have been the right fit and not the right time.
Right. It's, finding the right match is such an important part for both people involved, right? Like, I know even going through the hiring process, there are times when you get really excited about a candidate and you're like, oh, I love them, and you're staying disciplined to your process, and then midway through the process, they take a job somewhere else. And it's like, oh man, I really thought there was a lot of potential there, and battling that like, it's not the right fit. Right? If they weren't as excited about it and staying, then you got to trust that that's the process. Were there any relationships that were burned in that process? There were?
Of course. I think people, it's emotional, right? You're talking about your livelihood.
Sure.
You're talking about your pride, you're talking about some ego, which to me, ego is the root of most problems in business. But and mistakes that I made, no doubt. I think when I look back now, I think I could have handled a lot of situations differently.
Is there anything that you then teach to your leaders now in the organization, or that you would advise other entrepreneurs that are going along that journey that would maybe help them navigate that a little better?
Well, the most cliche line, which you hear all the time, is fail and fail fast. Right? So that's, but I would say something I don't hear a lot, that's something that I just feel, is I thought being passionate about the business was synonymous with being emotional about the business. I'm as passionate about the business today as I was when I started it, when I owned it. I'm not emotional about the business anymore, so I can make clear decisions when you remove that emotion. I thought that emotion was my superpower. It was actually my kryptonite.
That's an unbelievable segue to the question, because you talked about Spartan's edge being creating an experience, right? And it being a relationship-driven thing, not a commodity-driven thing. What is your edge, right? Like the Seahawks just won the Super Bowl. They define it as that tiny competitive legal advantage that helps them win. What's your edge? What's been your edge, and how has that evolved over time?
Listen, I think I'm going to say what I think it is. I'm going to say if the industry and our competitors are being honest and they're watching this, I think they would shake their head yes. I think culture trumps strategy. And I think we have the best culture. And I think it's been a battle these last almost 5 years since we've sold the business to maintain that culture as you scale across 50 states.
Why?
Because we can't touch everything here. The people that helped really, really create the culture here, and I'm just one spoke in the wheel. They're not in LA.
Right.
They're not in Dallas. They're not in Minnesota. So you need people that understand that, our leaders in those marketplaces that were here. Now we're dependent on them. They're the face of Spartan to their team. I'm not. They're the face to the clients. I'm not. Joe's not. So we need them to understand that culture definitely does eat strategy for lunch. And if we don't have that, I don't really know what we have.
So has the culture evolved from what you guys built to post Floor Decor purchase? Has it changed? I mean, I know you're battling, right? But like, what I'm saying is the culture you wanted or you believe in, has that changed? Has the vision for that, or has the identity of that changed because you've scaled?
I don't know if it's as much because we scaled, if it's still the after effects of COVID and remote work.
Okay.
I think that pre-COVID remote work, when we're a $100 million company with 100 employees, we could really control. You knew who really brought it every day and who didn't. And I think since COVID, I almost feel like, and people might shoot me for this, but like I'm not a huge proponent of work-life balance. I'm just not.
Not real.
Like,
not a real thing.
I think to be great, I've never seen anyone that was great. Listen, you on the ball, you guys love talking sports, right? How many? I mean, they make fun of me because of my sports analogy. Probably why we hired you guys,
No doubt.
right? But do we think the Mamba mentality was based off of a work-life balance?
Of course not.
Right? I mean, we saw the Redeem Team documentary when LeBron and those guys are going to the club and Kobe's already back from the gym. That was us. I mean, I'm not comparing ourselves to LeBron, but in our world, I don't ever think we've been the smartest guys in any room we're in. I think we just went at it harder than everybody else. And post-COVID, and you have some acquisitions. You're scaling national. You're in different states and different geographies. And I think that's the hardest. I would tell you, for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're all rowing in the same direction. And I feel like we're moving in that direction. I don't know if we'll ever get back to that magic that we had when we were smaller, but I do believe we outwork the competition.
So outworking the competition, culture eating strategy, relationship driven, right? That work ethic. You built a flooring business because that was the industry that you ended up in. If looking back, if you took those principles and were dropped into any other industry, do you think you could still be successful with just that as the roadmap?
I think we could have. Yeah, I think we could have, because I think it was just like, I'm an observer of talent and I'm an observer of people. So I find someone that's super successful and I'm gonna do what I can to emulate all of them, and I'm gonna learn and I'm gonna read, and I read a ton, I study a ton. To me, I'm constantly want to be better each day. And I would tell you, like, the one thing I really respect about On the Ball is you guys have made fitness, mental and physical health. You guys go at it super hard every day. But we were just in Soho at a retreat together, and we got to the gym and we thought we were being great at like 6 o'clock. You guys were finishing.
You're done.
You guys were finishing. I can tell you, that was the part that I always built in an excuse. So to me, I'm working so hard, I'm hustling so hard. You know what? I can't take care of myself physically. And today, I'm back. I'm really in a good place. But it took me a long time. I wish I would have had a mentor or somebody that I could have leaned on that really showed me the way. I didn't know the way. I thought I had to pick and choose. I didn't realize I could have it all.
Wow. Ooh, that's the mic drop of the show. Wonderful episode. Thank you for sharing with me.
Thank you. I'm humbled by being asked to be on it.
If people want to get in touch with you, if people want to find you, they love your story, where's the best place for them to get to you?
You know what? For me at this point, right now, we are building out my brand on social. Talk about learning. You know, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not moving in the right direction. So right now, go to Spartan Surfaces website, www.spartansurfaces.com. Find me there. You can reach out to me at kjablon@spartansurfaces.com. Eventually, you're going to see me on Instagram, the 2.0 CEO.
LinkedIn.
And I'm on LinkedIn right now at Spartan Surfaces. So definitely hit me up there. But I'm building out my Instagram handle right now. It's the 2.0 CEO. I own the fact that I wasn't a good student and school didn't necessarily motivate me. So we like to make fun of ourselves, and I'm the 2.0 CEO.
Well, I'm super grateful of you as a friend, as a client, and coming on as a guest. Look directly into that camera and say, let's find our edge.
Let's find our edge.
Let's go.